Okay, it looks like I've got some voice, got Evoke audio, so I'm here and probably pretty early. So yeah, I am 8 minutes early, in fact. So I'll have some folks probably show here in just a little bit. Let's hope. And this is it. This is our final meeting for the course. And the main thing tonight was we're going to talk about the movie assignment, business movies. So I'm going to wait here, and hopefully everybody will be here for that. And of course, today is the 26th, and we're going to go through the business movies and talk about them. So this was an all hands on deck session, and I'm hoping to see everybody here, and I am early. So hopefully I'll hear the familiar chime as people come in. I see somebody now, and a little bit early. And Abdul, glad to see you here. We'll start here in about 6 or 7 more minutes. I'm sure that we'll have a few people who will be coming in late. So, and I'm here a little bit early just to kind of, I think what we've got left is the business movies. We'll talk about that, and then and wrap this thing up. I think there's some other assignments that are due. I'll have to take a look and see. I think we're pretty much all caught up, and we'll be done. So I guess sit back and be ready, and we'll have a few more people join us here. At 5:54. So we've got about 5 or 6 more minutes. We'll be have a little bit of time. I usually have a lot of people here kind of waiting to get in, so we'll see. But we are early. But we have folks have a tendency to run late. Wet, cold evening here in Oklahoma City, and I don't know where you are. I can't remember for sure if you're here in Oklahoma City or not, but fall has arrived, and we've got about 5 minutes left, and then we'll get started. So. It'll be interesting to see what everybody had to say about their movies. And hopefully they'll all be here. We'll see.
Hopefully.
Let me put my headphones on because I thought I heard you say something. Abdul, did I hear you say something?
Yes, I just want to say hi.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't have my headphones on so I could hear everything. So yeah.
No, it's okay.
Good to talk to you.
You too.
All right. Well, you might as well grab a cup of coffee or whatever beverage you enjoy, or if you're going to have your dinner, and we'll start in about 4 minutes here, and we'll go from there. So I think we'll have a few more people join us. So stay tuned in, but go ahead and whatever, get your supper or whatever, and I think we'll start we will start at 6, so sharp.
Okay.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock. I'm going to get started then. There are two of us here tonight. I was expecting a whole lot more. I think I had sent everybody and made it clear tonight is a plenary session, as was last week, and for folks to be here and to talk about the business movie exercise. And I'm going to go over that. I hope we'll have some people show. I'm going to be pretty disappointed if we don't. And part of what makes this work, this online, is that folks attend and they're here and they do their thing. And if everybody bugs out on the last week of class, that's kind of problematic. I'm going to make sure, as far as I can tell, I think I had a meeting invitation up there for everybody. So hopefully we'll have some people come in. But it is 6:01 and we are missing, practically everybody. Now, I'm going to start with the business movie instructions and just talk about those. And here's what I ask everybody to do: is to create a Word document that contains the response to the exercise, upload it over in the learning in the LMS, and it's due prior to the start of the last class session, which is tonight. And I ask everybody to select 5 movies. They're about business that you've seen, and for each movie, provide the following information. I have movie title, the year, production company, and then point number 4, running through some of the databases are out there, and then number 5, a uniform resource locator, a link to 2 or 3 books about every movie that you select, and I said, use Amazon or Barnes and Noble to obtain those, and then if there were anything out there, a YouTube clip from each movie, and then a one paragraph synopsis on the key points or the themes at the heart of the movie, and then personal ratings of the 5 movies that you selected, 5 being the highest rating, 1 being the lowest, and a brief 1 paragraph regarding the ratings. So now, again, I'm pretty disappointed. I appreciate the one person who's here, Abdul. I'm kind of disappointed we don't have more people. And I included this exercise not as a fluff thing, but as a way to alert everybody to the fact that, first of all, as an institution, movies are, as an institution, business is certainly a topic of the movies. And number 2, that that there are lots of things that we can learn, because business is ultimately about people, and a piece of this whole course has been people and process. So I think that what would be useful for us would be to see how it's depicted, and to see some of the to see what we can learn in terms of reflection from them. So that I didn't think I was too far out of line there. In fact, I believe management and is essentially a liberal art, and business is a practice, and so we can learn from the arts about business and how we're viewed, and we can learn some things about behavior and how we deal with them. And this course also, there are so many movies out there that in one way or the other deal with decision making, which this course does, and deal with issues like this course does privacy, information rights, in addition to just technology. And so there's a broad range of movies about this. Now, also, there's a lot of movies out there about decision making and leadership, and certainly people brought those kinds of things in. That would be good as well. But I'm truly a believer that for us to have a really solid business course, we need something from the arts that shows us some of the ways we're viewed, shows us some of the stories that are out there, and certainly one of the what's kind of thought to be one of the great movies of all time is the movie Citizen Kane, which was about a man who's a businessman and he's and his life and what he did, because business people are human beings, they're not caricatures. Now, what I want to do also is see, I've got all who else got in here. Let me stop for a minute. I want to say hi to David. Glad to have you here. Dimitri, Abdul is already here. Nancy as well. And what I'm going to ask you guys to do, I'm going to mute you so we don't, we don't hear the dog or anything like that. But again, before we go too much further, I'm going to open up a new tab, and I'm going to go over to Amazon. And I always like to make certain that you get a chance to see a book, and this is one I think is very important. Because we do give you a lot of accounting, we give you I think it's the management challenges for the 20. Yes, here it is. Now, folks, this is a book that I recommend that you read. Peter Drucker is the guru of management. He is a giant in terms of understanding. And I think that this book, even though it was written way back in 2001, certainly that's the edition. I even have an older edition than that. But there's so many things that he talked about. But one thing that he really emphasized is that management is a liberal art. And as we've taken this course, you've heard me say over and over and over about the fact that IT is decision centric. It's intended to help you make decisions by using technology to build a dashboard or to understand the analytical cube, and to use those to work with your company, to work with your customers, etc. And so, to me, while I think it's kind of a fun thing to do the movies and have them, there's underneath that a serious, very serious kind of piece. The issues that we see today, for example, the information we have now about Facebook having thousands of fake accounts created, the hacking that's gone on, all of those things have involved technology. And so, for anybody who's writing a book on technology right now, this is just they're in heaven, because you've got all of these big cases, and you've got someone like Eric Snowden, you've got the guy that did WikiLeaks, and what has happened is the technology, okay, is neutral, but when human beings use it, things happen for good or for ill. And so I'm a great believer, but I really would encourage all of you, as students of business, as well as what I believe will be high-level practitioners of business. I think Drucker's book, The Management Challenges for the 21st Century, is one of the greatest out there. And I would encourage you to take a look at that, because it talks about management and running a business in some ways that I think are, well, when I go back and revisit him now and then, it's just spooky. And you can go over and take a look inside the book, I think, and get a good picture. So I really strongly recommend that you read that book. There's another book I'm going to recommend to you that I think would be good for you to see. And this is a book by Rana Thor, and it's called Makers and Takers: How Wall Street Destroyed Main Street. And she talks about, and the author here, is how business Wall Street has moved from a place where we purchased companies to almost like a casino, and that business has become almost a spectator sport, and that it's changed the nature of why people invest in companies, the pressures that companies are put on under, and so forth, to produce short-term results. And that's that, and her thesis there is that it's creating some problems for us, and I would have to say so. And she also talks about the fact one of the big issues we have is income disparity, and so I would recommend that's another book that you take a look at, because I think it's quite good. Now, I'm going to go ahead and close this Amazon off here for just a second. But these were the 8 things I asked you to do with the business movies. And again, we can give you textbook after textbook about using databases and using spreadsheets and using accounting and using finance, all of this technical stuff. Okay, and I'm a great believer that you need to do it, and I'm a great proponent of it. But I also know this: at the end of the day, if you have a person who is morally, if a person is basically amoral, then the types of decisions you get may not be good ones, and they may not be the types of decisions that you want to see play out. And I would say this: I think all you really have to do is look around at the financial crisis to see that. So I'm of the opinion that these exercises really have much to say. And I think if you go through and you start to look at the Perelson text, you're going to find, and I've written them before and said, well, why don't you include a list of movies that has a companion text to this book? And there are not very many out there, hardly any, but I think they provide some tremendous case studies. And I wanted to give you a chance to do something a little bit different, and also use some databases that are there and so forth. So I think that you certainly can learn a lot. Now, I would say this: I think one of the tragedies, I don't know if it's a tragedy, that's too strong to say, but something that troubles me greatly about business schools is that we don't study the discipline. We study pieces of it, but we don't study business as a discipline. And that's important. And I have this dialogue with you because you're MBA students, you're graduate students, and you're close to being people who would be ready to go into a doctoral program somewhere. And so so you should be highly astute users of content. And what I can say is that the kind of problems that we face, the kinds of choices that we face, are not really new. If you go back, and let's say, for example, you take Citizen Kane, which is ostensibly, by many people's measures, the greatest movie ever made. It was about a businessman, okay, which is a brilliant, and you watch him as he goes through pieces of his life, and it's an incredibly good movie. And before that, if you look at many of the novels, particularly the novels F. Scott Fitzgerald, and then you look at his work, and of course he certainly looked at and studied the people who were wealthy and their lives, and so that there's even a genre there in literature that looks at that issue of the businessman and their responsibilities. And who hasn't seen A Christmas Story? Who hasn't seen Dickens? And who hasn't seen the story with with the ghost of the past and the future, all of those things talking about the person who's an entrepreneur. And for us, it's decidedly different. And the reason is this: up until the early 20th century, people owned their businesses and they were practitioners of their business. If they made cars, or they farmed, they were farmers. You didn't have a class of professional managers who came and ran the business for you. And what we have today is what I call, and if you had your ethics course or law course, or you've heard this term before, is we have an ongoing agency problem. Now, one of the ways that people have tried to deal with that is to take executives, particularly those who work at traded companies and publicly traded, and give them stock options, or even private firms try to give managers an incentive to make the business more profitable, etc. And it's my belief that in that we have lost the notion of business administration. And if you think about the word administration, think about what the root of that word is: to administer. And at the very root of it is a moral or an executive quality. And in fact, if you take the accounting equation, assets equal liabilities and owner's equity, there is a moral quality, to that equation, which is the most fundamental equation we have as business people. And so we have an ongoing agency problem, and that is acting in the best interests of the community, our shareholders, our employees, the people who employ us, and all of those stakeholders, because the world is too interdependent for us to act as if we live in a silo. One of the most interesting sayings I've ever heard, and I think it's so true, is that you may be able to keep a lot of stuff out in a gated community. You may be able to keep a lot of things out, but what you can't keep out is dirty air and dirty water. And so as I look at as how things have evolved, it's interesting to me that we have come to a point now where we have a lot of folks who maybe aren't thinking about the long term, and maybe not thinking about even about employees. And we see this in how transit people can find themselves in the corporate world. So I know I'm kind of on a rant here, but the institution of business is, I believe, the one institution that can move human beings forward and can move us into a better time and into a better day. When the people, and I'll give you an example, when the people in Ireland decided they were tired of bombing each other and shooting each other and having all this strife, when they finally got worn down, when they figured out that the British were going to let them set off as many bombs as they wanted till they ran out of bombs, and they got tired. Now today, Ireland is one of those great places to do business because people saw it was in their self-interest to build their economy and build their communities. And one of the things we've seen, and this has occurred in my lifetime, is the remarkable transformation in China. Here is a country that, when I was in college, had a group of people called the Red Guard who went around, and if they found anybody who was educated, they sent them out to re-education camp, which was out to the farms, because they didn't want an intelligentsia. And they were crazy. They had this cultish thing. Today, you look at China, they're an economic juggernaut, and they're a communist country. But how did that happen? Well, they finally figured out, after a while they do have some limited, they're not an open and free country by any means. But once they figured out hey, maybe we'd like to have some things. And it's interesting, and let me add one perspective, and we are in a faith-based institution. It's interesting if you look at Christianity today, its greatest amount of growth is in Asia. And that's, I believe, because when people get past their fundamental needs, okay, those basic needs, and they accumulate some wealth, or they accumulate some things, or they begin to experience some of the enemy or rootlessness of a corporate life, they begin to ask some questions about the meaning of life. When you're scratching out an existence out in the farm, out in the rice paddies, or you're in some urban environment where you just, there's nothing there, life takes over. But at a certain point, when you hit a certain level, then you begin to ask some questions. So I think that's one of the reasons why Christianity is growing so fast in that part of the world, is because business has become a change agent. And I could say this: when I was finishing my doctoral program, I remember, I'll never forget this as long as I live, the great debate that was going on in the business schools is, what do we do about South Africa, which had this horrific kind of institution called apartheid, where they literally took up all of the folks who were Africans and of African descent and put them in cities, which were basically prisons. Okay. And then you had all these American companies doing business with them. And there was a lot of angst about that, because apartheid was an awful, terrible, terrible thing. And how did it get stopped? Well, Nelson Mandela was a big part of it, but a big part of it was a group of graduate students at Columbia University who said, we need to start a disinvestment campaign. And so what they did was they began this campaign of disinvestment to and to shame corporations that invested in South Africa. And pretty soon those companies started to say, we're going to leave if you don't fix this. And so the man who was the president of South Africa, a man by the name of de Klerk, began the road of moving away from apartheid to a just society. And they were lucky enough to have a person like Nelson Mandela there to guide them through the first stages of becoming a free and open country. So business has the capacity to do much good. It has the capacity to do a whole lot of good. And so I think it's imperative on us to see sometimes the unvarnished look of that we get from the arts, and to study them, because ultimately you and I don't live in a silo. We don't practice what we do in a silo, and our work impacts a lot of people. In fact, and I appreciate you bearing with me through my rant, but one of the most interesting things that a lot of people don't know is, if you take the top 50 resource organizations in the world, those are the top 50 that have the resources, 80% of them are businesses, not nation states. That ought to give you pause to think. And we do have in our country, and now it's starting to happen in China, and it's starting to happen in Mexico, as we see these industries, particularly these heavy smokestack industries or large manufacturing industries, are starting to move other places. The industries that were in Japan and China are now moving on down to Vietnam because they can get cheaper labor there. And so the people in China are starting to grapple with this issue that we do here, which was such a part of the presidential campaign in 2016. And I can tell you, when I lived in St. Louis, and I'd drive to one part of North St. Louis, and you could see all of the abandoned factories, and you could see how the community had just had really had just buckled and cratered because the jobs were gone. So as business people, we have some pretty fundamental things we have to confront, but we do have the power to make things better. And as I've emphasized over and over in this course, IT is decision centric. It's about making decisions, and and I believe that peopleware part is maybe where we fail. And so every time we have a bubble like we did in 06 through 08, or we have a big business scandal or whatever, it does nothing except expose that we have to have these conversations about who we are, what we are, and why we think a business is created. And it's and I think when you look at, I think when we go through some of the movies tonight and some of the movies I've chosen, which I'll share, I think you're going to see over and over people asking this question about where are the boundaries of good and evil? What do I owe the community? And I think if you go back and you look at that movie, Citizen Kane, for me as a believer, okay, I always come back to the question that was posed: what does it profit a man, and meaning a person, to gain the world and lose your soul? And I can tell you that both of my parents were pretty well off. And I remember I asked my father, I said, what does it feel like to have that kind of money? And he said, here's what he said: you can only wear one suit of clothes a day. You can only eat so much. You can only sleep in one house at a time. You can only drive one car at a time. He said, at a certain point, it just becomes like a scorecard. And he said, it's very easy to lose touch of why you went into business. You had a passion for people. You had a passion to serve them and to help them. Well, I appreciate you letting me do my rant and rave. And let's take a look at some of these movies you folks have uploaded. And I'm anxious to see them because I think it's going to be great fun. And I'm certain you chose some good ones. So I'm going to go down here to the syllabus, and we'll find these. And again, I also want to say this, folks. I really appreciate the hard work that you've put in this semester and gone through this. And let me go up to the speed grader here, and we'll take a look at. We'll see we've got some, and we'll look at Abdul's. And here we go. Okay, here's one from 2000, which is the Boiler Room. Okay, and yeah, you got some links there to the books, and these are 20-something. Okay, it's a good movie, and talking about all of those the stock traders. So yeah, I can see right now between 4 and 5. It's not too bad. The Pursuit of Happiness, that's a good movie, and another good one. And yeah, Chris Gardner. That's an interesting. I think one of the better movies that takes it away from maybe they're on Wall Street or stuff like that. Up in the air. That's another good one. Very, very good one. And Jobs, I think, is an interesting movie. Fascinating human being, and a good one. These are good choices. And then we have the fifth one, which is Margin Call. It's another one of those. It's quite good, and a lot of these revolve around the stock market. So good choices there. Now I'm gonna stop for a minute, and Abdul, if you have your microphone, if you'd like to, would you just share with us kind of why you chose these movies, or how they got the process you went through in choosing them to see them?
Actually, what made me choose those movies is that I am finance major, so most of the time I'm interested in watching the stocks and learning about financial industries in general. So I already watched these movies before, and when the assignment came up, and that's the first movies that I thought about, because they represent a good. They represent, I mean, a huge problem in the market
Mm-hmm.
for some people, and this kind of a problem is causing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's causing chaos in the market for a lot of people and hurting a lot of people.
Okay. Now you're were you a finance major as an undergraduate?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And so you chose these because of the market. Yeah. I think they're good choices. They're excellent choices, and I appreciate that. And I'm kind of curious about your ratings. Now let me see here. You get Boiler Room 4 or 5. Um, The Pursuit of Happiness, that one's a 5 or 5. Did you see that? That movie? Did you select it because it was relatively new, or is there something in the story that kind of got you interested?
Which one?
The Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah, it's actually because, I mean, it's really what fascinates me about the story is that the guy struggled to succeed in the, I mean, and it was a huge struggle for him,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what made me choose it because I have watched the movie and to me it's kind of
Okay.
inspiration.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think a lot of people find that as a very touching and very inspirational movie. I would have to agree with you on
Yeah,
that one. And I think the acting in it is just all over the top, up in the air. That makes sense. You'd choose that one. And Jobs. Now, why did you Steve Jobs? What was it that got you interested in looking at watching that movie?
he, I mean, he started from nothing and he doesn't know a lot about computer, but he knows that how to manage people, and he knows how, and he has a vision. That's what
Okay.
I mean, the big vision that he has.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, he's an interesting character, and I think a lot a lot smarter than a lot of people will ever be
Yeah,
able to give him credit for. Uh, Margin Call is another. That's a good, an excellent movie. Well, I appreciate that, and I tell you what I'm going to do. I
yeah,
think
sure.
I'm going to move on, and thank you for your comments. And we'll go back up here. Thank you for the movies. Let's see what.
Yeah, sure.
And we got Marcus. Marcus, are you here? If you have a microphone, let's see if Marcus is here. All right, he's maybe not. And we'll take a look at these and see what he chose. He chose Wall Street. That makes sense. That's one of those classic ones. He's got, and there's a lot of material out there and some YouTube clips. The Market Never Sleeps. That's my favorite scene of that when uh, the Charlie Sheen's out on the beach and he gets the call from Michael Douglas. The Market Never Sleeps. I think it's. And then here's another the 2010 version. Another excellent choice there. Joy. I wish I had Marcus here. Is there anybody else who chose Joy as their movie that's here? Anybody? How many of you have seen the movie? And I'll unmute people so that they want to speak to you. And I'll go around. David, have you ever seen the movie Joy?
I have not.
Okay, okay. I'm seeing somebody's giving me a chat. Let me check that over here. Okay, and I've got Taylor. Hi, Taylor. Thank you. Yeah, Taylor. Taylor. Let's see. Let's see if you've. Taylor, I'm going to unmute you for a sec, and if you would, yeah,
All right. Is my mic working here? I haven't ever
yeah,
tried.
yeah, you are, and you'll probably need to turn it down just a little. I think I can hear you. There you go.
All right.
Okay. Now, let me ask you to do this. Let me talk and then you talk because we've got some heavy feedback here. Uh, Taylor, when did you see the movie?
Oh, I was saying I have not seen it.
Oh, you have not seen it. Okay, okay, okay. Anybody that has?
I did.
Okay, and who's speaking?
Nancy.
Okay, Nancy, when did you see the movie?
I guess it was probably close to when it came out.
Okay, okay. And did you what was it that attracted you to see it?
Um, it's a strong female lead, so being a
Okay.
woman, and I think just seeing how she overcame a lot of odds, and growing the business.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay. And the now there's a lot of and if you read the go over and take a look at the New York Times or just about everywhere, there's a lot of talk now about females in Silicon Valley and in tech in general and the obstacles they run into and I think it's an interesting time right now. And I don't know, it seems like every time I open up the news, there's somebody from Uber, Lyft, or somewhere who's getting fired for sexual harassment or did it and they're fired and they're getting run off because of those kind of things. And of course, the thing at Fox, what an incredible implosion they had. And so I think that I think we're going to, an interesting thing is that today females are the leading entrepreneurs, not males. It's women who are starting businesses. So I was curious about, where the choice of Joy came up. In terms of the acting, how did you think it was pretty well done?
Oh, I definitely think it was.
Okay.
Yeah, I enjoyed the movie.
Okay. And I think it's interesting to see we're getting more and more women in positions in the Fortune 500, and it's interesting to see as that has evolved and in all walks of life. I think it's going to be interesting to see how that all evolves out. So thank you. I'm glad we had somebody who had seen the movie. Now we have The Wolf of Wall Street, which I figured someone would choose that. And that one is that's just it's those crazy people, and it's oh mercy, there's probably, I'm not even going to touch that clip because I'm sure there's something naughty there, but that whole culture, it's just interesting to study, and it doesn't do us much good. The Big Short. Did anybody else choose or see The Big Short?
I have The Big Short on mine.
Okay, good. It's an excellent movie, and I think very, very good, almost like a documentary. Well, Marcus has got some good choices here, and some that I would expect, some I didn't expect, but that's okay. And I'm going to go ahead and move on. I wish he was here, but apparently couldn't make it. Let's see, Dylan. Let's see if Dylan is here. Dylan, are you here? Look and see if I can find Dylan. Don't see him. Okay. Let's do this. If everybody, if you would mute your microphones so that I won't be giving you so much feedback. There we go. And then I'll call on you, and then we'll unmute you. Jobs, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And I wish I was here. I wish I could ask him. I'm certain a lot of you have seen this movie. It's an interesting movie. The Pursuit of Happiness, there's another one that's been chosen. That's good. The Godfather, I think, is interesting. Let me ask this, and I'll just do a show of chats. Who here hasn't seen The Godfather? Would be a good question to ask. Is there anybody who hasn't seen The Godfather? it is about a family of entrepreneurs, obviously, but the Godfather trilogy is just incredible, an incredible interesting story about the using a family. I see a chat so I have one person who hasn't seen The Godfather. Well, let me recommend that you see it. It's an interesting. It's a fascinating movie, and it doesn't glorify those folks, but it certainly does help you understand how they kind of got started. And the truth is, today over in Italy, they still deal with that because the mafia is a very real thing. So Moneyball is another one that I think is one that's chosen. And I'm glad to see that Dylan chose that because it's all about the use of analytics. And I'm a baseball freak, so hey, I can understand. Let me see if that was Dylan who happened to come in here. We have an 8th person that's joined us. There we go. And let's see if we got Dylan in here. No, still no Dylan, but okay. Now, let's look at his other movie. Inside Job, okay, yeah, that's the story of the meltdown, and that makes a lot of sense. So far, the joy seems to be pursuit of happiness, and joy seem to be the two that have a positive stuff going on. Taylor, I'm glad you're here. We've got your movies. Let's see what you came up with. You came to The Big Short. That makes sense. Let me ask you, Taylor, since you are here, what was your undergraduate major?
My undergrad's in economics.
Okay, so Al, that makes a lot of sense that you'd like The Big Short. Have you seen or read the book The Flash Boys?
I have not.
Yeah, you'll want to go to Amazon and take a look at that because it's a story of how trading has been taken over by technology. And let me pop over to Amazon for just a sec, and we'll take a look here. I'm pretty sure it's called oh my god, what is the title? I may have to look it up. I'm forgetting it now, but the book is about how trading on the street has become really dominated by by technology. In other words, the people who have the fastest servers can find market arbitrage and act on it. And I think it's called The Flash Boys. I think that's let me get not the Flash costume, but the Flash Boys. And we'll go over there. Flash Boys. I think that's what it's called, the book. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. If you really want to kind of see how, one of the things that's interesting about this book is you not only learn about Wall Street and the arbitrage issues, you learn a lot about the internet and about technology. And it's a fascinating story. I think you'll want to take a look at it, and I would recommend it. I previewed the thing, and I thought it was an excellent book. Good. And then he's got The Social Network again. That makes lots of sense. I saw it. I've seen it about 2 or 3 times, and it kind of had to grow on me. Now you've got one that's got me really intrigued, and that is Jerry Maguire. Now, Taylor, why did you choose Jerry Maguire?
Honestly, I went through like my movie cabinet underneath the entertainment center and tried to find movies that were about business because I was struggling to think of some.
Yeah. Okay.
Like here's one about a sports agent who was really successful and then went off and started his own deal and it didn't do a very good job at first and kind of lucked out with his one client that he had.
And there is of course a very famous line, and I bet everybody knows him. What's the line from that movie that's so famous?
He showed me the money.
Yeah. I love that scene. It's a great scene. If you haven't seen Jerry Maguire, you need to. Uh, and it's so interesting because he's so naive at the start of all of it. And it looks like he's going to get killed because of his being naive. But it's interesting. And I don't know how many of you are able to catch much of Fox News or anything during the day. I watch Fox, CNN, all of them that I can watch if I get a chance to record them. And I think it was Fox, but they had Lee Strasberg on, the big time agent, and of course they were having this huge controversy, about the football players and Trump and kneeling during the Pledge of Allegiance. And they had Lee Strasberg on, and he's just like, who doesn't use him as an agent? And it was interesting the responses he was giving. And I thought, well, this is very interesting. So yeah, it made me think of that movie, Jerry Maguire, and interesting. And I think, of course, Tom Cruise is in that movie, The Founder. Now this is an interesting movie, and this is about this Taylor. This is about the story of McDonald's, right?
Yes, sir. It's
Okay.
yeah, it's about the franchising of McDonald's. Yes.
Okay, yeah. I haven't gotten a chance to see it. I would like to. And you rated it 5, despite telling the story of who was the despicable human being? Don't tell me it wasn't Ray Kroc.
Yeah, it's Ray Kroc.
Oh,
That guy is a terrible person.
I'll never be able to touch fries and a shake from there again. You broke my heart, man.
Well, I mean, it was a deal where you just kind of have to watch the movie. But my wife is owns her own business and just started earlier this year, and it's a food truck. And we were talking to another food truck guy, and he said, what changed my outlook on business was this movie, The Founder. And so we really just watched it last week. And
Okay.
it was on Netflix. We pulled it up and watched it, and it is really, it's really intriguing. I was very entertained for sure and interested in it, but it just kind of made you go, God, that's a terrible person.
But he got the franchise rolling, right? Yeah, that's interesting. Well, I'm gonna have to see that because I haven't seen it, and I've heard a lot of good things about it. But yeah, it kills me. He was this. That's too bad. And I think I bet there's some of you who are young enough. Your parents took you to McDonald's and you bugged them out getting a toy, and now you find out all that you knew was true. By the way, mentioning this. PBS has a documentary on Walt Disney. Now, who doesn't think Walt Disney movies are about, I grew up with Walt Disney and Mickey Mouse and all of that. And the documentary about Walt Disney is very interesting, and I would recommend you see it because it'll sure change your mind about Walt Disney. He was a far more complex person than we all knew. So I'll leave it at that. It's a pretty, and if any of you are Disney freaks, you have my apology. I understand. They made some great animated movies. And The Intern. Now here's another one. Okay, and this was all right. And okay, now The Intern. This is another one I haven't seen. Now this is about I assume that the guy decides to okay. So
it's Robert De Niro.
Oh, it is. Okay. Robert, and is he the intern?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna have to see that. Taylor, you're making me feel bad. I thought I was a real movie person, but I guess I need to come out of the cocoon. I hate going to the local IMAX over here because by the time you're through, it's $60 or $70 for two of us. You get a ticket, you get food and all that, and then you're looking at taking out a second mortgage. Movies are so expensive, but I'm gonna have to figure out either that or cut the cord and start doing Hulu like the rest of you. And I've seen someone's asking in chat. Okay, I'm seeing 2 thumbs up, Nancy. Thank you, Nancy. You liked it, so that's a recommendation. I'm gonna have to take. I'm gonna have to go see it. We've got movies on demand through Cox, and we get them. And I'm gonna have to get in there and start looking at something, because we forget about having it. And we've talked about cutting the cable and going to Hulu and all that. And I'm nervous. I'm old school. I like cable, and I don't know. Maybe I'm just foolish. But and there's so many movies out there on demand that you can see. So definitely gonna have to see The Intern. What is at the end? Now you said you rated it 5, okay, and you gave it a rating of 5. And what is it essentially? What's the essential theme of this movie?
Oh, I'm not very good at generalizing themes, but I'd say that it's one, he's retired and he's a widower, and I think he just wants to find some kind of purpose in his life. He kind of enjoys working, and the kind of other side of it is that the other main character, she's the CEO of the company, but she's young, and she started this internet clothing sales deal, and her board and all that stuff are kind of trying to push her aside to hire somebody else that's a CEO that has experience.
Okay.
And he kind of comes in, and she's not that interested in it, but he kind of mentors her and
okay.
He's kind of there for her, and he kind of, it's kind of a mutual beneficial deal. That's kind of teaching some of the other guys how to, show up and, dress up to come to work, and just little things that you kind of take for granted that people know that not everybody knows these days.
That's an interesting thing that you say. The faculty have a retreat every year, and this year we had a retreat, and we had a headhunter in to talk with us, and we asked him, if there were 2 things you really want out of employees, what do you want? What are you looking for as you do headhunting? He said, "You'll love it." He said, "You're going to die." He said, "We're looking for people who show up for work and don't steal," which I didn't know the bar had gotten that low. But it was very interesting, and kind of it was pretty quiet in the room for a while, but then he began to tell some of his war stories, and it was fascinating. This sounds like one of those coming of age. I'm going to need to see this. You guys are making me feel ashamed. So thank you. Good choices of movies, and you've done some good work. And isn't it wonderful? You've got all these ways to go learn about them. You can go, and you can even see stuff on YouTube and get clips of it. And you've got books. You've got the IMDb, all these different databases. I'm a movie buff, and let me tell you something. I love the fact that you have so many ways to learn about movies, and so many different types of the YouTube clips or all of that. I tell my wife, how did I live without YouTube or Google? Because if we're watching TV, we'll have a question and answer. We'll kind of have a conflict over, well, this or that, and we solve it through Google. Who doesn't do that? I guess probably all of you who are. But so some good choices. Taylor, thank you very, very much. Let's see what Lisa chose. So we'll put Lisa on the spot. Deepwater Horizon, that's interesting. Okay, the BP explosion. Okay, all right. Okay, and you've got the systems analysis of the disaster. Yeah. I have to confess to you that I'm a person that watches a lot of the news when there's an airliner goes down or something. It's a perverse thing on my part. Okay, and see, Lisa, you've watched it several times. Okay, and Kiss the Ring, yes. Okay, yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting. Now, got Deepwater Horizon, the BP disaster, which was enormous. Jerry Maguire, okay, that's a good one. Who was the female lead? Does anybody remember? He had a female lead. Who was it? And she went out and worked with him, with Jerry. She left when he quit, and and he thought all the other brokers had fallen, agents. And what was the name of the female, his love interest? Somebody's going to tell me here in a minute. Okay, yeah, Renee Zwelling. It's Renee Zellweger. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. That's all right. Yeah, okay. Now it comes back to me. And I think if I'm not mistaken, she had a little boy and all this stuff, and she followed him out the door when he quit. I'll never forget that as long as I live. I thought that was sad but very funny, as he was telling everybody and what his manifesto. Remember, there's a lesson there. Don't give your boss a manifesto. You may be looking for a job. Then the intern. I'm going to have to see this. Looks like it'd be a good one. I got. Okay. Yeah, that another one of those quotes. Yeah. You had me at hello. I remember that now. Yeah. I love Jerry. I love Jerry Maguire. I love the movie, and because of the naivety that he has to a certain extent, but in the end, it's idealism that takes him to Two for the Money. Okay, I've never seen this movie, Two for the Money. That's interesting. Okay, and the gambling business. So they get into gambling, the guy gets hurt. Okay, I had never seen that, Two for the Money. I'm gonna have to see that. So thank you, Lisa. I'm getting a list of these movies that I'm gonna have to see. There's just no two ways about it, and I've got to quit hanging around Turner Classic Movies too much. I'm a big classic movie freak, so I'm going to start, and I'm going to have to get my head back in the game on a lot of this stuff. The Insider, that's an excellent movie. Yeah, that is about the tobacco. That is a tremendous movie. And who was the Lisa? Who was the lead in that movie? I want to think it was Robert De Niro or something like that, but I know I'm wrong. Anybody remember who the lead was in that movie? Okay. Okay. Crow. Okay. Crow. Okay. Okay. Good choice of movies. Another one. I haven't seen. I'm gonna have to see those. My wife and I also unfortunately we've gotten hooked into I bet there's some of you who remember. I think it's called Mystery Theater 3000. And the science thing where they had the one guy and then the two little robot characters that would watch bad sci-fi films. It was on TBS for a long time. They've done a revival of that, so sometimes we'll sit up and watch them. And I bet you one of them is Crow, and there's the other guy. But they've revived the thing, so they're out there now, which is one of those funny things. We love those kinds of movies. The Insider. I'm going to have to revisit that one because it's a good movie. Lisa, thank you so much for sharing. Got some good ones here. And these especially, I think this is a really good choice because of the systems analysis that they do. And like I said before, I am I have a perverse interest when airliners go down, and I'm sorry, but I like to read and follow the story, because normally what it comes down to is it's just these series of things that all together, a perfect storm of things happen, and then they have a bad flight, and so it's fascinating stuff to me to read, and that's weird. What can I say? but I think there's a lot to be learned, and some of these, if you just see one failure compounded after the other, and then you also see a human element where people, didn't respond correctly or whatever. So thank you for that. That is an excellent book, and it should make you think about what the kind of risks that those folks have to take. So thank you very much. Good choice of movies, good ones. I'm seeing lots of Jerry Maguires here, so I'm glad you guys like inspirational leaders. Online, let's see, you've got Chef, okay, and I believe you're here. Tell me why you and I'll unmute you. Yeah, for Amalan. And why did you choose the movie The Chef?
Here.
Okay. You may need to turn your mic down just a hair. And again, the movie The Chef. Why did you choose it?
I chose that movie because of the story.
Okay.
Yes, I really like the food business and everything related to restaurants. And it's a very funny movie too, and very interesting.
Okay. Is there anybody else who's seen this movie? I'm going to have to go look it up and see it. Anybody else who's seen The Chef? Okay, well, that's one we need to put on our list, everybody, and go see it. Because it comes recommended pretty highly, it appears here. And then, okay, here's you did a great job with the synopsis on this. This is quite good. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Very, very good. Yeah. Okay. He starts, okay, I'm going to have to go see this. Good. Excellent. Nicely done. Very, very nicely. Yeah, there's some, the negatives is the language. Yeah. And that one's, of course, you're going to run into those. The founder, let me get back up here for a second. Now you've got the founder. Now, let's look at your synopsis. Is there anybody here who's seen the founder yet? Oh, this is okay. Yes, this is the story of Ray Kroc. Okay. So Taylor, both of you have seen it. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I'm this. You broke my heart. I thought Ray Kroc was just a friendly old guy, but apparently not. And then you chose Jobs. That's a good choice and a recurrent choice. One of the things that's interesting about Stephen Jobs, if you read his biography, when he came back to Apple and he saved Apple Corporation, he became one of the world's authorities and one of the best authorities in the entire world in terms of operations management and handling production chains and manufacturing processes. And this is something people don't know, because when he got to the company, he realized that on the creative side they were really good, but on the execution side things had gone down south. And of course they had some products in their pocket, but while he wasn't at Apple, he only changed the movie industry too. And Steve Jobs is just an incredible person. So thank you. This is I'm seeing a lot about him. You may not, if you read his story, the biography, and I saw an interview with his biographer. I think it was on Charlie Rose, the guy who wrote the official biography of Steve Jobs. And he was such a driven person that in the last weeks of his life, he had one goal a day, and that was to get up and try to walk to the park near his home. And so that's the kind of person he was. He was very goal-driven, very much a person who needed that. But what a lot of people don't know is when he came back to Apple, he became this tremendous tremendously skilled person at manufacturing and making stuff and handling supply chains. And so he was just a genius, an incredible human being. And it's sad that we lost him at such an early age. So thank you so much. It's a good movie and good synopsis. Okay. Yeah. It is okay. Steve Wozniak is still counting his billions and doing crazy stuff. I think he's involved with SpaceX or something like that. I'm not quite sure. But after I think the part that they don't cover very well in the movie is the job he did at Pixar. He changed the movie industry by bringing in, and they pioneered a lot of things in animation. He was there. The Pursuit of Happiness, another one. Okay, yeah, good movie. Okay. You've got some good information here in terms of clips to YouTube. And, okay. And you rated it for Other People's Money. Wow. Now that's an oldie but a goodie. I remember seeing that one. And that was when 1991. That was one that I had to go see as when I was working on my second and third masters. I had to go see Other People's Money, and the movie was on, and then the play. I was living in St. Louis, and then the play came to St. Louis, and I saw the play, and it was on Broadway before it was made a movie. It's fascinating. But it really encapsulates a lot. It's about this company up in New England that makes wire, and then they become subject to. Danny DeVito's in this, and I'm trying to remember who else was in there. Yeah, he was Larry the Liquidator. Yeah. It's a good movie, and one of the first ones that brought that problem of agency into question, and the issue of the value of the company. And I'm trying to remember who was the protagonist in that movie. The older gentleman who was I think he was the CEO. But that movie depicts a lot of what happened in Wall Street in the 90s and 2000s. People coming in, and the corporate raiders, and Taylor. Your background, you know about those people and Green Mail and what all they did, and any of the rest of us. Well, thank you very much for the choices. They're very good and excellent. You did a great job with the scripts and the synopsis. So everybody, you're getting a list of movies you have to see. Let's see what we've got here, and we've got this is Nancy. Thank you so much. All right, let's see what we got going on here. Aaron Brockovich. Now, I don't know how many times I've taught this course, and this is the first time I've seen Aaron Brockovich, which I think is just it's an excellent movie, and boy, does she have to deal with some stereotypes and fight through some of that stuff, but a very she's a very, very courageous human being. That I'm so glad to see that you chose that, because it really is just a fantastic movie, and deals with this person against the system, and she wins, and there's so many things about her that she puts up with a lot of stuff and deals with it quite well. Aaron Brockovich, interesting. Great. Glad to see you chose that. A Woman of Substance. I guess, okay, this was a TV miniseries. Yes. I remember very faintly seeing this or parts of it. Okay. Yeah. Emma, the story of Emma Hart. Okay. Yeah. I think it's interesting. And okay, and that really did set you off seeing a woman for the very first time becoming an entrepreneur and becoming that kind of thing. One of the interesting things is I think if you one of my favorite movies, and I would encourage all of you to go to see it. I think it's still up over on TCM if you have cable, and you can stream movies or on demand, or if you could just go to Hulu, or some of you probably can steal it, but I don't want to know about it. I think one of the best movies I've seen is the movie Giant. Elizabeth Taylor, Rock Hudson, James Dean. It was his last movie, but Elizabeth Taylor in that movie really confronts some stereotypes in the 1950s, and she has this incredible scene with these Texas oilmen, where she, in so many words, she pretty much tells them, quit treating me like some empty-headed fool. And it also has another, at the end of that movie, also has a great scene, and it addressed the issue of racial prejudice and the prejudice there in Texas against people of Hispanic descent. And so I think it's worth seeing, but it's a great movie, beautifully shot. And I think this is the 70th anniversary of it or something. I saw something on Turner about it in a special. But I'm glad you chose Women's Substance, because that is a great TV. It is an excellent one. Good choice. Very, very good choice. Gung Ho, I love that. Good choice. Again, 1989. Yeah. And Nancy, I believe you're here. Who was the lead actor in that?
It's Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton, of course. And they have to meet the quota. And they have the Japanese company comes in, takes them over, and they have to do exercises and all this. They have a quota to make so many cars. Am I right?
Right. He's actually trying to save his own hometown.
Oh, okay, yeah.
By so he brings in this Japanese company to start making cars, and because I guess they were making American cars, and then that contract. So they have to start learning how to make cars the Japanese way.
Right. Yeah, I remember, and all the stuff. I remember he has to go back and face the Union after they.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big culture flash movie, and
a
lot of they bring in a lot of business processes that are different. So it's interesting study on business.
It is during the 80s, the Japanese business practices, people in the United States just kind of looked at that and said, hey, we need to be doing that. And so you got Six Sigma and all of that stuff. And I had the wonderful opportunity of working with the Duran Institute, who I was a consultant for them for several years. And Duran is one of the gurus of quality, but it's interesting. But that movie has got some really funny stuff in it, and I think if I remember, did they save the plant? Did they save the place or not? Did they?
They did. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I remember when they had to go back and tell the people in the union what the deal. Right. The union people were not happy, but yeah, that's good. Here's one that's Enron, and that is, what a tragic story that is. And the sad part is that I think the founder was very vocal about the fact he was a Christian and a believer, and wore that on his sleeve. And then, of course, we all found out there are all kinds of crazy things going on. This is a good choice because it really does bring up that agency issue. And and because of them, accounting systems had to be changed, and all kinds of rules were put in dealing with these firms. And and all that happened down there in Houston. And I fortunately never put any money in it, but I knew people who lost everything, and it's a tragic story, the way it all just unfolds. And it's like most Ponzi schemes. In the end, things go bad. So thank you for sharing that. That is it's a real cautionary tale for us.
I highly recommend anybody that hasn't watched it. It's very eye-opening.
Yeah, it really is. I think the thing that got me more than any, that really got me, was the accounting firm, and I'm not going to name them, but you can go see the movie and read the books or read the stories, who's signing off on this stuff. And we're basically just taking a fee, all the while probably knowing there's all kinds of chicanery going on.
Oh, they were cooking the books.
Oh,
they knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah, and it's just so sad. What a terrible thing, and they wiped out a lot of people. And yeah, I think it's a good movie to see, because these are people who were brilliant people, but you know, the love of money is the love of money is the worst evil of them all. And it's sad what happened to The Social Network. Now I'm glad to, again, I think this is the second or third time I've seen it. I have to tell you, I watched it, and my wife and I watched it, and she said, "What's the point?" I said, "This is the guy that started Facebook." And she goes, "Oh, really?" My wife is a Facebook freak. Okay. I'm tired of it because, frankly, I'm sick and tired of look, I'm an old geezer. And so all my friends, they don't put stuff on Facebook that's cool. They're putting their kids' pictures and recipes, and then long paragraphs of, "Hey, I went to the bone doctor today," and, you know, stuff like that. And I'm not much of a Facebook person. My wife loves Facebook. She's on there all the time. And strangely enough, I'm kind of a Twitter freak. I love Twitter. I'm on there, and I just love to see the stuff people send back and forth. But when she saw it was about Mark Zuckerberg, she said, "Oh, wow, that's cool. This will be great." So, and I would have to say my favorite part is when they rent the house in California, and just basically, they had a zip line, and they do all kinds of crazy stuff in that movie, and how they recruited programmers. Of course, I think that the corporate culture has kind of changed now, but that's that piece that people are talking about this, the kind of the culture out there in Silicon Valley, these startups, everybody's looking for a unicorn. So thank you for sharing that. It's a good movie. And Mark Zuckerberg just recently handed over 3,000 accounts that happened to be people who are Russian operatives who appeared to be linked to Russian operatives or Russian agencies, and were literally doing some naughty things on Facebook. And I think Facebook, Google, especially those two, are really, it's interesting to watch how they deal with nation states, like how they deal with China, or how they deal with other countries, and in terms of what can be shared, what can't, and all that business. And is it the Schloss twins? Is that the name of the twin brothers that were in on the deal, and then they sued him and all that?
Oh, I can't remember. It's been a while since I actually watched the movie.
I think it was them. And then there was another one of the founders who he ripped off. Right. He got involved, and he had him sign away some of their rights and so forth. Yeah, it's
the movie vilified Zuckerberg.
Yeah, yeah.
I think he tried to stop the movie from coming out.
Yeah, yeah.
But, I think what I found most interesting about it is, I in my business, what I do, I deal with a lot of startups, and I think, if you asked Zuckerberg back in 2003, he never would have imagined that he'd be where he is, today, and dealing with the kind of things that he's dealing with now. So for me, I just found it very interesting, just the juxtaposition against then to now, to see where he was and where he is now.
Yeah. You mentioned the book, The Accidental Billionaires. That's a great book, everybody. Nancy, thank you for sharing that. That's a fantastic book. that's on my to-do list to read, Garfield's book, and
Yeah,
I
that's
think
the guy.
that was, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how Zuckerberg got married. Now he has a kid. He's kind of grown up in front of everybody's eyes, and he reminds me of this kind of wonder child who's gradually evolving into. Yeah, I'd say this: he's got some courage, because when Wall Street was beating him over the head about earnings, he said, "Hey, you know, I'm building for the long term." And so I'd have to say I give him kudos for that. But some of the other things, he has a tendency to kind of follow a pattern where they deny that there's something wrong, and then finally he admits it and he puts out a video, and you know, that's one of his. That's right now this thing with these 3,000 accounts that the FBI are pouring over. He was back there saying no. In fact, he got a call from Obama. This is right, I think, in November or December before, and that some of the security agencies in the United States were picking up this traffic that was flowing into and out of Facebook, and these people, and saying, you know, that some of these people look very familiar to us. So it's interesting. So thank you for sharing some good movies. You know, and nicely done. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Let's move on over here and let's see what else we got. And we've got the Big Short. Okay, yeah. And this is Simon. Simon, are you here? Let's see if he is. He's missing out now. Now here's the sad thing that tell everybody who didn't come tonight that they missed the raffle for Dr. Rudbach's red car. So make sure that I'm making a joke. It's just a joke, okay? But yeah, he's the Big Short. That's a good, and has been mentioned a number of times. If you guys will just kind of bear with me for a minute, let me tell a war story. In 2003, my wife and I went out to work for a university called North Central University, which was owned by a guy, and it was a really exciting opportunity I saw, is to get online, and they were primarily a doctoral institution, and they've gone through a lot of metamorphosis, but we were, as we left in 06 to come to OBU, we were living out in Arizona, and many of the houses on my block were owned by people in California who were borrowing and were having these rental homes. And when the bubble burst, literally in my block, in my neighborhood, literally probably 3/4 of the houses were just boarded up. And I kept some people in there as renters, way below market rate, just so I'd have someone in there other than the coyotes and the drug dealers. But that was a crazy thing. And this is an excellent movie that walks you through all of it. And it's got some really funny stuff, but it really helps you. I tell my undergraduate students, you have lived through, although you were, you know, kind of, you were in your diapers, not your diaper, but your jeans. One of those things that people will talk about, because the financial system really did come to the precipice. So thank you so much. If Simon, tell him if you talk to him, thank him. And now let's see the social network. Okay, there's another one. And it's amazing how much information is out there about these movies, and these movie databases are just incredible. I'm as you can tell, I love movies. And for me, Saturday was, my mom would usually, she'd give me $1, which would get me in the movie, get me popcorn, candy, and a drink, and a dime to call home to get home. So that will tell you how old I am. And The Wolf of Wall Street, yeah. And now, who is the lead in this movie? Anybody know? The Wolf of Wall Street, who is the lead? Anybody know? I gotta go watch it. Go out and find out. I love this movie. Oh, The Lord of War. Now here, this is a very interesting choice. And this movie I've seen 2 or 3 times. It's about a war arms dealer. Yes, I've got a chat here. Okay, yeah, you almost chose it. Yeah, Taylor, I would have to agree. I think it's an interesting movie. Those folks are, yeah, they're people dealing that stuff on the side. Yeah, I don't, but yeah, I remember seeing that movie. I think other than the cinematography in that movie is just incredible when they're out there in the middle of West Africa. Unbelievable. Yeah, it's just incredible. And a business that many are in. And boy, I you know, I had an interesting experience. I went here in Oklahoma City. There's a place they have where you can go, fire your weapon. So I went to Wall Street and got myself at Wall Street. I went to Walmart and bought this cheap little plastic Glock. Okay. And then I went out, to kind of get qualified and everything and brush up the license on business. And I'm out there, and this is interesting. 90% of the people in that place were females, and a lot of them were packing 357s. And I thought, I brought this cheap little plastic gun. I really feel like kind of a shrimp. And I walked by, and there's one young lady, and I mean, she had that, and she was firing rounds. And I thought, boy, times have changed, and I am glad I'm not dating, because I would not want to have to face the wrath of somebody with a 357. But the Lord of War, this is a fantastic movie. Yeah, it's excellent, and it really does open your eyes about what's going on out there, and in terms of arms trafficking. A good movie. Jobs, this is again another one people have been choosing, so it's a good movie. And again, a fascinating human being he is, and the ratings. So Simon, I wish Simon was here, because he chose some good movies. We'll move over and let's see what Zach chose. Wolf of Wall Street. Okay. I hope some of you didn't choose Wolf of Wall Street because it has a lot of drinking and partying scenes, although I have a suspicion that may be the truth. Catch Me If You Can, Tom Hanks movie. Tom Hanks and it's the story of the guy who it's Tom Hanks, and who's the guy who imitates the airline pilot. He was also the star of the movie The Aviator. What's his name? Okay, somebody's going to tell me, or my brain's going dead. Okay, Leo DiCaprio. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Isn't it fast? Good movie. And great story. And the weird actor, Chris, what's his name, is in that. I think is his father, and he's just about as creepy as he can possibly. Christopher, what is the guy's name? He's just a strange person. But he's the father. It catch me. It's an interesting movie. The guy was brilliant. The Big Short, again, another one of those. Yeah. Moneyball. I love that movie. I thought the cinema. My favorite piece of it is when they go there to and they show the Green Monster. I'd never seen the Green Monster in movie size. I have to say it's awesome. Although I'm not a Red Sox fan, I have to admit, but it was so funny listening to the opening scenes where they're talking about all that. Yeah, my wife and I are both big baseball fans, and I think one of the most intriguing statistics now that baseball, people love baseball, and you'll know this if you're a baseball fan, are statistics and numbers geeks. And now they've got this thing of the velocity of the ball off the bat. If you've been watching, and I just find that fascinating. And with the came off of his bat at 105 miles an hour, and I'm thinking, okay. And they've got all these situational players and all this stuff. It's just fascinating to watch. And so when we watch a game, I think about when I was a kid watching ball games and how primitive it was. And now they've got all these graphics and all these statistics, and it's mind-boggling. but it's really changed. And they took the analytics and use it. And now the guy who's the general manager at the Chicago Cubs, Theo Epstein, I believe, or Epstein, he broke the curse of the Red Sox, and then he broke the curse of the Cubs. And he is a serious believer in using analytics. So they've done pretty well. My wife and I are Cardinal fans. I'm also a Yankee fan. I know, hold your booze down. But the Cardinals are also, to a great extent, all into that. Wall Street, an excellent, again, yeah. Gordon Gekko, greed is good. And fantastic, good choices of movies here. And it's interesting how some of these movies, show me the money, greed is good. You had me at the first words or whatever. These movies get into the culture, and people get these terms. Now, I can tell you one that my parents enjoyed movies, and they would come home with some just stuff, and I think I guess probably their favorite movie was Father of the Bride, and it never died. Pardon me, and I never understood the angst of Spencer Tracy till I saw my father go through that angst when he went through all the throes of a daughter getting married. So this Jerry Maguire, good one, yes. And it's Cuba Gooding Jr., fantastic actor. What a tremendous actor. Great. It's interesting to me, in all the time I've taught this class, not one time have I ever had anybody name what I think is a fantastic business movie, although it's really not about business, is The Bucket List. I love that movie. And I absolutely love that movie. I think you have two actors there who are just absolutely consummate professionals, and the story of this tycoon who's dying of cancer and has his and helps and meets this unknown man, and they win, and they go through the bucket list and of things they want to do. And I hope some of you've seen The Bucket List, because it's a very touching movie. And it's just a wonderful, but it's I'd say it would fit in here quite well, because at the end, they both have to come to terms with reckoning with their mortality and come to terms with their lives. And one who maybe was an overachiever and the other who was an underachiever. Jack Nicholson and Morgan Freeman. And it doesn't get better than the two of them. And I think the funniest part of that movie is when they jump out of the airplane. That was one of the Blood Diamond. Now, that's one I've not seen. I've heard a lot of good things about the movie. And thank you for sharing that, David. That's good choice. And it's on my list of stuff to see. The Pursuit of Happiness, again. This is an excellent analysis. You guys did a great job of analyzing these and coming up with all this information and the clicks. Isn't it amazing how much stuff YouTube has? This is a course in information technology, and who would have thought that a place where people uploaded, their cats, drinking out of the toilet, would evolve into this massive enterprise that's about to become a network. And they don't mean a TV network. They're talking about movies, TV, all kinds of things. And YouTube is just an incredible place. And I ask myself, how did I live without streaming movies? How did I live without movie downloads and music? How did I live like that? How did I live with having to wait for basically 3 channels? I don't know. But this is excellent. This is an excellent choice, A Pursuit of Happiness. And the Step Brothers, that's an interesting choice. Oh, I remember seeing this, and it got some naughty stuff in it, but the two, Will Ferrell is he is insanely funny. It's a good movie. It's kind of a spoof, but yeah, they have to get out and go start their own business, and and yeah, the Step Brothers that's a good choice, and that's a sleeper. I'd say, folks, if you haven't seen it, you need to go see it. It's an excellent. So David, good choice of movies. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed being with you guys. And I know I've talked too much. I've probably kept you in too much, but gosh, you're such good students, and it's been a real pleasure to have you along. Thomas, thank you. You've got Wall Street. Okay, that's a good one, a very, very good one. And if I'm not mistaken, Charlie Sheen and his father are in it, both of them. And his dad's the union guy at the airline that he gets the inside information. Yeah, yeah. Charlie Sheen, boy. Now there's a story, a life story that is something else. Thank you for smoking. This is the first time, Thomas, I've ever had anybody choose that movie. Very first time, and I think it's just fascinating, and all the denial and foot dragging that industry did. And the sad part is that around the world today, especially in emerging economies, people smoke like chimneys, and so they're going to have some real problems. Plus, they're going to have problems with diabetes because they're eating better than they ever have. So they're going to be having they're going to have a lot of the same problems we do today. The Pursuit of Happiness, again, a good choice, and staying determined. And let me just share a very personal insight with you. My father was a very successful businessman, but he failed a few times and had to come back from that. And the one thing I learned as I watched him was he was just determined to get it right. And he was one of those rare people in life who can take every mistake he's made and fix it. And he really did that. And when he found out he had about 20% of his heart left, that was when he left the casino. But I like this movie because it's so real. It's such a real picture of so many people out there and the kinds of things they're going through. I think it's just a beautiful movie about the human spirit. And Too Big to Fail, yeah, it's one of those, yeah. And this is, of course, about the financial bubble. And again, an excellent choice, a good one. Tucker, The Man in His Dreams. Now, Thomas, are you here? Let's see if Thomas is here. Thomas, are you here? Well, I'm not here. I would embarrass him if he was, because I'm telling him this is one of. I hope all of you, if you haven't seen this movie, have seen it. How many of you have seen Tucker, The Man in His Dream? I'm not seeing anybody signaling that they have. Really, you need to see it. The Big Kahuna's in this movie. Don't miss him. Okay, I see one person. Okay, yeah, okay, good. Thanks, David. You've seen it. Yeah, I thought it was an excellent movie. I enjoyed it very much. Yeah. Yeah, and there's some of his vintage automobile. I think 2 or 3 of his automobiles that actually produced that are left. I got another chat come in. Let's see here. Yeah, Nancy probably did. It had he played the Big Kahuna and Bridges, Bo Bridges. Am I right? Is that his first name? He was Tucker, and he was this crazed man who had this idea for a car, and he had to go fight with the big three. Okay, good. Some good choices. Nice ones, very different. Okay. All righty. Let's see here. All right. Dimitro, thank you. Oh, wow, you get this organized very well. This first movie, okay. Dimitro, I'm going to have to ask you about this. I've never seen or heard of this movie. Have you got your mic there? Because I'd like you to. I'm interested in finding out. Yeah. Okay. There you are. Let me unmute you. Oh, you're okay. Let me unmute all of you, and then tell us, Dimitri. Tell me about the movie.
The movie is about. Am I on?
Yes, you are. I can hear you.
Yeah, thank you. The movie is about the famous sushi place in Tokyo in Japan.
Okay.
And this place is famous because it's the restaurant serves only sushi, even without water, nothing else.
Okay.
And the line of people probably like this restaurant is booked up to like 3 months up front.
Wow.
Even the President Obama had to wait. Like
okay.
Yeah. And the story is about like the unique man, and his dream was to build to become a perfect chef.
Okay.
In sushi, and she made it through. Right now, he's about like 100 years old or 97 years old, and he still performs that business. And this restaurant is kind of like, I'm sorry for my French, but this restaurant, the most expensive sushi restaurant in the world, does not have a toilet. So the restroom is across the street.
he's moving people in and moving them out.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Well, that's a good choice. I'm going to have to see it. What a it sounds like a fascinating movie, and one of those people in business people, they just get something in their head and they just pursue it. Thank you. That's good. Now I'm going to add, now The Godfather. What's your favorite line out of The Godfather? Everybody has one since I've got you on here.
Like I remember, like I was seeing this movie like in my language with the translation. I haven't seen it like in English. So I believe that because of the translation, the famous saying might be different from the original.
Okay. Well, there are two lines that, and anybody else want to chime in, you could. Two lines stand out to me. That one of them is the most obvious, and that is, I made him an offer he couldn't refuse. That's a good one. And then I like the other. I think it's Godfather one where they execute somebody, and I think it's Ed Bagoda. He says, leave the gun, take the cannoli. And if you've seen that movie, you'll see it. But yeah, I thought that The Godfather was interesting. When you saw this movie, and you said you give it a second.
Is she crying?
What did you think about in terms of the way that they tried to move away from the old ways and move into a legitimate business?
The way probably like I will answer you. Like we had the same situation back in the 90s in my country. I'm from Europe, from eastern part of Europe. And once like back in the 90s, once USSR fell, so we used to have a lot of mafia. Mafia used to control everything, every possible aspect of business. And right now, in about like 1 decade after, the situation has changed, has become different. And it is identical, kind of like, so the movie, this particular movie, Godfather, kind of predicted our situation. Because
really?
they're trying, and plus, I remember there is a movie from 90s about another family, some Italian family, Italian mafia, and the story leads us from 30s up to 90s, and eventually, finally, the same screenplay as Godfather has when the mafia kind of like is trying to get rid of the shady business, and they're trying to clean their money and their reputation.
Okay.
So it's all about the concept of getting better. But of course, this movie is not a good example of good living, you know.
Yeah.
Just probably,
no, it's not.
It's a good example of the effectiveness of the organization.
Yeah, that's very true. If all of you want to see the experience of people who migrated to the United States, the Italian experience, the Irish experience is very much now. Probably all of you know this or would know. Joseph Kennedy, who was the father of John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the president of the United States. Joseph Kennedy, his father was a rum runner. He was literally someone who would bring in illegal liquor during the Prohibition years, and they were part of what was known as the Irish Mafia. And then there's an excellent movie called The Streets of New York that was about the gangs of Irish gangs that were formed at the turn of the century. And when these folks came to the United States, they all kind of banded together because they didn't have much social standing, didn't have any money, so they kind of had to band together. So yeah, it's a good movie. Inside Job is another good one. It's a good choice you made. Yeah, and it just gives chills up your spines. Now here's one that's Glengarry Glen Ross. This is an excellent movie. Great actors in it. A tremendous number of some of the best actors in Hollywood. The cast are in that, and it really does have the boiler room environment or the pressures of that type of sales environment down, and the abuses that can take place. It's excellent, good. The Social Network, okay, one everybody has been choosing one way or the other. And I teach the MIS course, and for the undergraduates, I know there are probably some of you thinking that's too bad after the experience you've had with me, but I tell them that for many companies, social media are a solution looking for a problem. And it's interesting. One of the exercises, in fact, I graded some today, is I had my students go out and create a blog, and you can go out to these places and WordPress and create a blog. And it was interesting to see their approach and what they did with them. And I think as I've watched the use of social media, I think probably one of the very first companies that was very, very good at handling it was of all people, Southwest Airlines. And I think they had a blog before anybody. They used Twitter. I think they had a Facebook page before anybody. But these companies are still trying to kind of come to grips with how do we use this. Now, last week I serve as a reviewer for a lot of different journals. And I reviewed a very fascinating article last week. It was about the article dealt with some researchers who were trying to identify ways to identify fake recommendations, and they took samples from ads sent from Google ads, and they were trying to find a way to detect, was a recommendation true, and trying to use, they were doing some textual analysis. So it's fascinating to see that article. And again, that's one of those things where, bad recommendations can kill you. My wife and I went out, we had our anniversary Saturday, we went out to dinner, and my wife said, "Oh my goodness gracious, it's a place here in Oklahoma, it's very nice. They've got really bad reviews." We got there, it was a completely total opposite. So either they cleaned things up or somebody posted a bad review on there. And Amazon, and Mike, all of you, I look at the reviews, but these social media platforms, Instagram now is one of those. Pinterest is another. There are all kinds of these little sharing kinds of things, and it's fascinating. And like I said, I think many of them are solutions looking for a problem. So I was glad to see you choose a social network. yeah, he is he's a genius, and understood that a database, you can use it for you can use a database as a business model. And so I appreciate appreciate the films. This is, I'm going to have to see this, because that's just fascinating. The it's one of those crazy people that they're into what they do, and it's an art for them. Okay, well, I think we've gone through everything here. So let me pop down for just a minute, and I do appreciate your staying on here a little bit longer than we usually have, but this is our last session, and I'm going to go over to the files, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'll share with you what I chose. This will probably date me a whole lot if I loaded it up over here. I think I did. Here it is. Okay, I'll download it. Yeah, there it is. And I just want to let you know, I won't torture you any more than I've been tortured. I hope you've had a pretty good class and I hope you got some good. This is a tough course to teach, but I hope especially the lab stuff was helpful. These are here's the instructions, and here are the movies that I chose. I chose Executive Suite, which is, if you've not seen it, I think I would highly recommend it. And it's one of the first films I ever saw and used as a case study when I was a graduate student. I was an undergraduate. It's a Wonderful Life. We've all seen that one, and that's about business. And shame on you for not having It's a Wonderful Life, But when did Bailey ever get any respect anyway? I'm kidding you. House of Strangers. This is one of those. Movie is considered to be the kind of the pre-Godfather movie. It's about this guy who's a gangster and comes back from prison. Everything's all changed, and it was a family, and so a lot of people feel like that was kind of the model in which the Godfather was built. The Man in the Gray flannel suit is. Gregory Peck is the star of that movie. And as you can tell, I'm an old guy. I'm an old geezer. I like classic movies. I love the new stuff too. Some of it it's just too much. But this is the Man in the Gray flannel suit is the story of this guy who is a business executive, and he's back from the Second World War, and his story's not that uncommon. And when he was there in Italy, he fell in love with a woman and fathered a child. And then he comes back to the United States and doesn't bring her back. And then this woman's son and they come forward, find him. And so he has to go through this issue of taking care of this child that he fathered, and his wife and her reaction and his company. And he's just this kind of faceless corporate guy, but then all of a sudden he has this great moral dilemma. It's an excellent movie. And then, of course, Citizen Kane. Again, I'm dating myself. What can I say? I can watch Citizen Kane 1,000 times and see something different. So that's me. And I'm sorry, I'm an old guy. I like those movies. And these other movies are fantastic. But I think some of these are well worth waiting. I think The Executive Suite is a tremendous movie. The last few minutes of it, the last few minutes of it, William Holden is the hero in the story, and he begins to talk about why people work and what a company ought to be and how it should relate to a community and the kinds of things it should produce for customers as I listen to the movie, as I listen to that, every time I hear it, I think, wow, 60 plus years later, it's still applicable to our situation in business, and it's the story of executive succession and some corporate in play. Has a great cast of actors in it, and I would recommend you see it. Of course, you probably see A Wonderful Life every Christmas, and you go, oh no. But maybe this year you look at it, and you'll ask yourself, was Bailey building and loan really truly a sustainable enterprise. And maybe not if certainly it teaches you one thing. If you have a little kind of a strange uncle who likes parrots, don't send him to the bank with your deposit. It may not make it. And now in the days of electronic fund transfer, it wouldn't be a problem. Well, folks, that's pretty much it. And I thank you for sharing your films and what you chose. I hope you'll explore some of these because there's some really fine ones out there. Some other good ones I would recommend. 12 O'Clock High is a fantastic story about leadership, and it is during the Second World War. It's dated, but I think you'll find it is one of the greatest studies in leadership you'll ever see. And I think if you want to see bureaucratic behavior gone insane, The Bridge Over the River Kwai is a good movie to see this strange way that someone can become so obsessed with order that they literally are working against their own mission. So there are many of them out there, and I would encourage you, if you don't get a chance, if you do, seek out some of these older movies because they have some great content. And I'd have to say again, I think the executive suite really speaks so much to this issue. And the reason it's such a good movie is because this is right at the start of when we saw people begin to treat businesses like an ATM machine, as opposed to an enterprise that was supposed to make people's lives better. So thank you for letting me rant on and on and on tonight. I apologize, but I'm a college professor. I get paid to do that. And of course, you always had the mute button, so you didn't have to listen to me. Anyway, but again, I want to thank you for all your good work. And I hope you've gotten something out of the course, maybe some practical skills or insights you didn't have, maybe some ideas about IT that you can take back to work or use at work. And I just want to say, and I've told everybody, this is the best class I've had in a long time. And you're great people, and we're so proud to have you as part of our MBA program. And I hope when you go through commencement, that you'll take an opportunity to seek me out, because if you go and you walk across the thing and you get hooded, I'll be there and cheering you on. And I know you're doing great things, and you're going to do fantastic things out there in the world. And so I hope that you had a decent experience with me and learned some about IT. But thank you again from all of us at the institution. We do value your participation, and thank you for all the good things you've done. You've been a joy to work with. And if you should ever, any of you need a letter of recommendation, shoot me an email. I'm happy to help or put in a reference. I think you've been great people. And so for the good of the order, I'm going to close this off. Thank you so much. And let me encourage you, if you work together, those of you who work together as teams, use this opportunity to network. Don't forget that, because networking can really do some great things for you. And it has for me. And again, I hope you take a lot of what you learn and take it and use it out there and use it to see and understand. And I hope that you're having a good experience with this. And you have, I think you should be hearing from the university soon. They do ratings on all of our courses, so you'll have your chance to write about all the bad things I've done. And don't tell them I showed up drunk too many times. I'm making a joke. They already know about all that anyway, or the Tourette's or that stuff. I'm just making a bad joke. But I do again want to thank you so much for your good work. And this is some great movies. So thank you, folks. I'm going to end the share and then close the meeting down. God bless you, and thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you at graduation. So you all take care.